Good morning, everyone. Minister for State, Honorable William Duma, Minister for Fisheries, Honorable Delta Wong, other Ministers of State and heads of government departments, fellow heads of SOEs, the Board of Directors, and also fellow delegates. I see a strong support, delegation from Port Moresby, and I'm really encouraged to see you all here. Firstly, I would like to thank the conference organizers, PNG Chamber of Resource and Energy, PNG Co, for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning about PNG Power Limited. Look, it's an exciting time for Papua New Guinea as we enter the next cycle of resource boom. Ladies and gentlemen, PNG Power has its current challenges that we all, and it's well documented. It's one of the main issues that all businesses operating out of Papua New Guinea fully aware of, apart from the Forex. But we are taking steps to address this. With the strong support from the Marape Rosso government, we're making inroads into rehabilitating our grid, especially in Port Moresby, Lae, and the Gazelle, as well as not forgetting our multilateral partners. I see Ms. Buckley in the room as well, the JICA, the ADBs. Through this support, we are able to make some investments, big investments, major investments into our grid and our operations around the country. For this morning, I will cover some of the major projects in the generation, transmission and distribution that will increase capacity and enable PPL to provide electricity and support the next resource projects in the Port Moresby and Brahmo grids, as well as our operations across the country. Just a quick outline. I'll be just targeting, give a brief overview of PPL, the market overview of PNG electricity in Papua New Guinea, as well as the PPL recovery plan and the major projects that we'll be looking at. So just to give an overview of PNG Power, we have over 210,000 registered customers across the country. We have 600 megawatts of installed capacity. We operate 3 main grids. That's the Port Moresby grid, which is in terms of size, its demand size is one of our largest. Just recently, we've seen the addition of Erevu, and we've seen demand peaked around 140 megawatts for the first time. So it continues to grow. The second grid that we have is the Ramo grid that runs around parts of the highlands right across to the coast of Lae and Madang. So it's our longest grid. And then we have the small Gazelle grid in the Gazelle Peninsula and East Britain. Of this, the total grid that we have a total of 900 kilometers of high voltage transmission lines. And we break that down further into our distribution lines. We have 2,589 kilometers of distribution lines which we are required to maintain. We have a challenge with the aging generation and transmission infrastructure, but standing here, I'm glad with the strong support of the Marape Rosso government through our minister and Kumul Consolidated Holdings, we are making big investments into those, and I'll be touching some of these this morning. Apart from that, we have 5 IPPs currently supplying the grid. We have 3 in Port Moresby with the addition of Erevu and New Power and Dirio, and we have the other 3 in Ramu. Okay, the challenges and issues affecting PPL It's well documented. There's a lot of literature, as ministers pointed out. In terms of asset management, we're not looking after our assets as we should do, given the challenges we face with our cash flow constraints over the years. The other exposure that we are exposed to is the movement of oil prices on the international scale. When you look at the oil price, whatever it is, we basically depend on fuel to power our 17 mini grids, as well as our two gas IPPs in Port Moresby. So the gas price movements, unfortunately, is passed to PPL. So we are left to absorb these movements in international commodity price movements. The other big challenge for us is the tariff adjustments. PNG Power, over the last 10 years, we haven't realized any tariff adjustments to recover our cost. And it's contributing to some of the issues I've highlighted. The other key problem for us is the vandalism of our assets, especially pulling down the transmission lines, our power lines, and it's costing us a lot of money to put back those assets back in. Sorry, where am I going? This is just an overview of our operations. As I discussed, we've got the Port Moresby, which is kind of centered around Port Moresby and parts of Central, but that's our largest. And then the Ramo grid that runs from Lae right up to the Highlands, to the Southern Highlands and Enga, and north towards Medang. And then we have the Gazelle grid in the Gazelle Peninsula. Just on the market overview, we have the generation mix of the generation sources of power. Most predominantly, we rely on hydro. And then you had the two gas IPPs that come on board, and obviously we depend on the diesel. So just to give a view on the demand forecast, the demand as business as usual, we're looking at the growth of our grid of around 2%. So the orange line indicates a very flat line across, and it shows the demand in electricity, especially for those small household connections, is very flat. But with the investments that the government is doing through the rural electrification program, we can see a small spike, but it won't be significant. What is required is especially our existing mines, and we're getting the industry loads into our system. So that you'll see the medium case where there'll be an increase. But the high case, or the case that we're looking at, and if we can reach that as a country and for PPL, will give us a demand growth that will trigger PNG Power's generation capacity to increase significantly. So that's, if we can add those large mines that we have, proposal mines that we have, we're looking at the Wafi Golpu. Porgera, unfortunately, Porgera's got a separate arrangement. They got the Heights gas to electrification, so they use off-grid. But if we can look at the other opportunities as well to connect. In terms of recovery, as Minister highlighted, is to stabilize. We've got 4 pillars that we are looking at. The first one is we focus on immediate actions, low-hanging fruits, to position PNG Power on a stronger footing, both commercially and technically. Secondly, on the recovery, we focus on the medium-term activities to reduce cost through the adoption of least cost principles, improve performance through reduction of technical and non-technical losses, and ensure PNG Power can deliver a high-quality service to its customers and ultimately contribute to revenue growth for the company. Going forward, in terms of the reform, our fundamental restructuring of the power sector in PNG, including preparing PNG Power for a future open market, as discussed by KCHMD, with the opening up of the markets and the generation, and as well as in the TND, we have to prepare PNG Power for that. And the last is the increased margin through ongoing process improvement initiatives to reduce cost and continue to grow revenue base while strengthening the capital structure. I'll move on to the major projects that we're doing. Look, for Port Moresby and the Ramo Grid, there's a significant investment by the government, and this enables PNG Power to operate. So, firstly, I would start on the Erevu 132 kV transmission lines and the Moitaka and Brown River substations. This investment is very important. Without this investment, we will not be able to evacuate power from the new Erevu IPP. So this investment came about as a result of direct intervention by Minister Duma through the government. So we were able to make that investment at a total cost of 113 million. And that enabled us to evacuate power from the new Erevu hydro. The second one that we are currently in discussions is the Caution Bay 66 kV transmission line and Motukia substation. We estimate between 20 to 30 megawatts of demand currently off-grid on the northwestern corridor of Port Moresby. So we're looking at putting together a new 66 kV transmission line that will run from our two IPPs that sits in the Caution Bay, and that will come through to the near the Motukia port, where we'll have a substation. And from that substation, we will build 7 dedicated feeders. And that 7 dedicated feeders, we are looking at connecting our existing, the new customers that are currently off-grid, as well as bringing in new lines into the Papua LNG. We understand Kumul Petroleum is already going ahead with the metal fabrication, but we want to provide power for that fabrication plant, plus the early works for Papua LNG. The third one that we're looking at is the Port Moresby grid rehabilitation. As my minister pointed out, there's a 211 million kina investment the government is making to upgrade and rehabilitate the Port Moresby grid. For those in Port Moresby, you'll see regular notices from us informing customers of planned outages. These are planned outages, and this is required for maintenance. So for the first time, we are installing replacing old transformers, putting new switch gears, changing the conductors, and these are required to bring reliable electricity to our customers. The other important project that we are currently in discussions with AIFPP through Treasury is the new Gerehu substation. From discussions, we are hopeful we can conclude the discussions in 2024, and we can start work on that new substation. So this new substation basically is to help us with the reticulation and distribution in our largest suburb in Port Moresby, that's Gerehu, so that we bring reliability as well as we support businesses operating on that side of the city. The other important project that we are working on is the Rigo transmission line project, and that's a 66 kV transmission line that we will be constructing from Port Moresby, going south to Rigo, and that will open up this part of the province and enable new investments to go in. And From Port Moresby, we also have Rauna 1 and 3 rehabilitation. That's our existing Rauna project. We will complete that in 2024. It's the first one, the Rauna 1, is funded by ADB. Work is progressing, and we anticipate to complete that in the third quarter of 2024. Rauna 3 is funded by DFAT through the EC program, and we anticipate that as well to be completed in quarter 1 of 2024. We're moving on to Ramu. For Ramu, we've got the Mount Hagen to Heights 132 kV transmission lines. It's almost completed now. We've got a couple of substations, one in Keltiga and the other in Yalibu. We will be commissioning that in 2024. With that, we will, for the first time, be able to connect Tari and Heights into the Ramu grid. And also, we explore generation sources in the western side of the grid through the gas, there's potential for gas. We're also looking at solar as well to export power into the Ramu grid. As part of this project, the second phase, we are looking at getting the Ramu, in the Ramu grid is from Mount Hagen to Yonki or Ramu. That project is also anticipated to start in 2024. And with the completion time of, we're looking at 2026. Apart from that, we have our largest city in Lae. We're looking at upgrading our 66 kV loop system. Currently, we have only 2 substations in Lae. That's the Taraka and the Milford. But with the growing demand in Lae City, and also in anticipation of the Wafi Golpu, we are looking at building a new substation just north at the where the Malahang industrial site is, and we have a 66 kV loop system coming around. So that will improve power distribution in Lae. Apart from that, we have a very strong support from AIFPP through DFAT again. We're looking at rehabilitating the existing Ramu 1 hydropower plant. So this project, if we are going through the loan negotiations together with the Geru substation I mentioned earlier. So if all goes to plan, we'll be looking at the rehabilitation to start in 2025 with the completion time of towards the back end of 2026 or 2027. And we also have the Ramu 2, as discussed already by the Minister and KCHMD. This is a PPP. It's subject to government approval if all systems go. We will have this started right away, and we're looking at a completion time of 2029 or 2030. Apart from that, we are looking at the other centers, Gazelle. We are rehabilitating Gazelle as well, especially the grid that we have. There's not been a lot of investments there as well. So through the ADB, we are currently in the tender stage, and we'll be making a contract award in Q1 of 2024. So that will build a distribution system for Gazelle, especially the 66 kV right across from Kokopo to Rabaul and to Karavat and then back into Kokopo. We're also looking at a solar facility, a 5 megawatt solar, together with EC program sponsored. We're looking at 7 solar and BESS hybrid projects. As I speak, I'm pleased to say we will be formally commissioning the first solar hybrid in Aitape, in Southern Province, in Q1 of 2024. That will be followed by construction for Kerama, as well as Finsafen, Buka, and Arawa. And the other point I want to raise and thank the Australian government is they've also come on board to support us with a 5 megawatt for Kimbe. So that will help us to reduce our thermal generations. In the regulatory environment, We've noted and we acknowledge the establishment of the National Energy Authority as an independent regulator into the electricity industry in Papua New Guinea. We want to engage with NEA to come up with a transparent tariff regime so that it's both fair on us as the utility provider and the end users as well through a regulatory contract. The other important and consideration that we need to also bring forward for public discourse is the emergence of solar. We've been approached by various business houses and individuals as well to connect solar to the grid, but at the moment we have the grid code that doesn't allow or support that. So we want to engage with NEA in a meaningful way, as well as the important stakeholders, so that we come up with a mechanism that will allow the investments in the solar space. Jeez. I'm done. Okay, with that, thank you very much, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2024.